Are you one of those people that go to work every day and you work so hard until you can hardly see straight on your way home? Like you really have to let the windows down, you have to have the air blowing wide open in order to get home because you're so afraid you're going to go to sleep. Let me tell you a story. I was very skeptical when it came to someone falling asleep at the wheel. Every time I would hear that someone actually fell asleep at the wheel, I would be like, how in the world could that happen? Did you not know that you were driving? How do you fall asleep at the wheel? I could not wrap my head around that at all until it actually happened to me. Now, I had a friend that I worked with at one point, and he fell asleep at the wheel on the way home from working long hours on a job. And we got the word the next day at work that he had passed away in a car wreck. And I was like stunned, and I was kind of bothered and upset at the fact that he actually fell asleep while driving. I was like, how do you do that? You know you're in the car, but until it actually happened to me. So I had this job, and it's been years and years back. And the job that I worked was a good distance from my house. On a good day, it was like 45 minutes. This is on a really, really good day. On a bad day, you can only imagine. And this is because I lived at once. I was in Mississippi. I had a home, and the area where I lived in was rural. So that means if you want to make decent money, you have to travel to work. So I had to actually get in my car every day and travel outside of where I lived. And from where I lived into the main city was already 20 minutes. And my job on a good day was a good 45, 50 minutes. So I really liked the job. It was a warehouse. In between every row, you have a cart, and you would push these carts down through and pick medicines for the pharmacies and doctors' offices or hospitals or whatever. So in the mix of doing that job, over time, I got promoted to DP operator. So as being a DP operator, I was able to work in my own little office space, go to work every day. It already was requiring for you to do a lot of overtime. So you know you're going to have to do overtime regardless of whether you want to or not, sometimes. But being that the pay was very decent, and I had kids that I needed to tend to, I had a home, I had a mortgage, I had insurance that needed to be paid. I was trying my best to keep my kids from being off of any type of governmental assistance. I wanted to do things on my own and handle my own affairs. They were very, very small. And, you know, I'm paying people to watch them and all of that too. So I had responsibilities. So being that I liked the job, it was already a plus. But sometimes they would catch you off guard and want you to work that dreaded overtime. Now, you know, some of us, we love overtime. Some of us don't want overtime at all. Some of us wish that we can work the overtime, but we can't due to our responsibilities. Well, most of the time, I was able to work the overtime, and being plus that I liked the money. So when I got promoted to the DP operator position, now my shift changed. So what I mean by that is, now I'm not coming to work when everybody else is at work, and I'm not leaving when everybody else clocks out and leave. That was over. DP operator, we handle all of the blue bar paper. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's these big machines that normally is in the office space. And then you've worked in offices, then you kind of know what I'm talking about, because some locations will have a room where you don't go in, but you can see all of those long, tall computers, and you can see all of the digital stuff going on the computer systems, and somebody goes in there or somebody's sitting in there all the time. 9 times out of 10, that is a DP operator. So I had to be there before everybody came, and I was always the last one to leave. And the reason I was there before everybody came is because in order for them to have the orders prepared when it comes through dispatch, for them to actually be able to pick those orders of the medications that are required, someone had to have everything saturated and ready to go. And that was me. So I was there before everybody. And at the end of the night, I was the last one doing the end of the dispatch, which meant I was the last one to go. So there came a time where we had mandatory overtime. By this time, I was already stressing and straining and didn't want to do. I didn't want to do overtime. I was exhausted. We was working, Monday through Saturday. We was off on Sunday, of course, and I know a lot of you probably do that anyway and don't think nothing of it. But when you're driving that far and you're sitting in traffic and you're having to worry about getting there on time, you got other mental things going on in your head, overtime. Oh, now I gotta ask somebody to watch my kids while I pull these overtime hours. This is stuff that you don't normally want to have to do, especially when you have little children. So with all of that being said, of course I was exhausted, mentally and physically. But being that I wanted that job, and I knew that the overtime wasn't going to last too long, so I thought, I decided that I would just, tough it out. I'm going to go and do this work, and I'm just going to tough this out. I'm going to do what I got to do to make sure I can make this money, keep my job happy, so that nobody is, whining about the fact that Deetra don't want to come to work, or Deetra's having a problem coming to work. I was the only DP operator, which meant that if I didn't come, there was not going to be anybody there to make sure all of the workload was ready and prepared when people got to work. So I had this weight on my shoulder that at one point I didn't think was a weight. See, at one point I felt like that was a blessing, because I felt like I was, irreplaceable. So back to falling asleep at the wheel. The overtime was unbearable, unbelievable, but we had to show up. There was, you know how they do. You guys will work those jobs when you have overtime. They call it mandatory, and that means that if your ass don't come to work, you know what I'm saying, you risk the chance of even losing your job because you didn't come to work. I was so tired, guys. I was so exhausted. And one night, because I worked the evening shift, and normally I would be at home by 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, with this overtime, sun would be up and I would be on my way home. So this one particular day, I was so exhausted. I didn't know how I was going to make it home. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But I did not think for a moment that I would actually begin to fall asleep at the wheel. That was the last thing I thought would happen. I was on the freeway, coming down I-55, going south, heading home. And in the midst of that travel, every now and then, I would let my windows down. I would let my windows up. I would let my windows down. It was a little cool, breezy, and you trying to get that air. I didn't feel the need to have to pull over and walk around the car. I didn't even think I was that tired. Now, at one point, I heard a horn blow. And because it was other people on the road, because, that time of the morning, people are on their way to work. So since I heard the horn blow, I was just under the impression that somebody was blowing at someone else. Not knowing that they were blowing at me because I was rearing over into the wrong lane. I didn't know I was doing that. I was just driving out of my right mind without even realizing it. Have you ever fell asleep just sitting and you swear you're wide awake and then you're like, oh, I fell asleep? That type of stuff. And you can literally do it while you're concentrating on something as important as driving a car. And I did not realize that could actually happen. I swore I was in denial that people can actually fall asleep at the wheel. Eventually, while I'm still coasting down the freeway, I started hearing a horn blow, and it was in my subconscious mind, so I thought. It was just blowing loud, like, wah, it just wouldn't stop. Like, and I didn't know what was happening until it just kept going so much until, you know how if you fall asleep and you think you got to use the bathroom, and in the midst of feeling like it, it'll start to play a role in your dream. And so you think that you're on your way to the bathroom, but you're not. And then you have to catch yourself and wake up and actually go. So eventually the horn woke me up. I had literally fallen asleep. And guys, when I tell you I was off the side of the medium, you know what a medium is in the country, you know, that you got all that room. I was off the medium into the grass, literally driving in the grass. And there was a overpath up ahead of me. And if that horn would not have woke me up, I would have kept driving. My car would have kept coasting straight ahead. And I was doing 65 miles per hour off the medium onto the grass, just wide open, heading for that overpath. And I would have slammed dead into the stoop hill. I would have crushed my car into 5,000 trillion pieces, and I would not be here today to talk to you. And when I tell you, when I realized what was happening, it was an 18-wheeler, and he was blowing his horn at me. Oh my goodness. When I tell you I cried, you better believe I cried. I cried so hard. I could not believe what had just happened. I was shook. So back then, I would not have any idea as to how fast my heart was beating. But when I tell you it was beating so hard, I could feel it pumping in my chest. It was beating. I could not believe what had just happened. He woke me up within 100 feet of that overpath wall. When I hit those brakes, whoo, and was able to slide, my car was sliding in the grass off the edge of the medium into the and back off to the side of the edge corner of the freeway. I cried so hard, I sat there, I know at least an hour. And you know what I did after that? I made up in my mind from that point that I was not going to put myself in that type of situation again for a job. That situation right there is what opened my eyes to how important it is to put yourself first over what these jobs, because let me tell you something, these jobs don't care nothing about you. They just want this money. They just want this work put out. You making somebody else rich. They just want this money, okay? They don't care anything about you. And you know what I did? I quit. That day. Didn't put in any notice that day. And I knew that I was about to be in a fix in a minute if I didn't find something else quickly. But I quit. I guarantee you that. I cut that loose. No more of that. If you guys have experienced that, or you are experiencing going home so tired, let me tell you something. Pick what's more important to you. Is your job more important to you than your life? And if you don't think much about yourself, what about your family? What about your children? What about people who do love you and want to see you come home every single day? Don't let a job kill you. Don't let a job kill you. No 9 to 5 is worth it. And I don't care, at the end of the day, it's not worth it. Because just like my friend when he died in his car wreck, all of that money he was making, he couldn't take it with him. That was over. And if I would have died, all of that, what's the use in it? Come on, think about it. I would rather do something that's going to have me a little worried about where my money gonna come from, as long as I'm happy and I have my strength and I'm not somewhere about to kill over on the freeway. Don't let a job kill you, because they will, literally. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.